it comes to God, if we believe who he says he is, and he can do the things he says he can do, then nothing is impossible for him because he's the God who speaks and worlds are created. There ain't nobody on the face of this earth or in the pits of hell or in heaven except for God who can speak and things come into existence. That's how he works. So we got to believe. And so what does that mean? We have to come to God in faith. You know that faith gets God's attention? And lack of faith also gets God's attention? Right? We were going through the Gospel of Mark. And Mark's, and we went through the Gospel of Luke before this, and they both have the same kind of story, is when the temple leader, the synagogue leader's daughter's dying, the guy comes and gets Jesus, says, Jesus, come with me. My daughter's dying, and I have nothing else. It's like, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. That's the level of intensity she had for hope. She had no hope. It was only Jesus. If Jesus didn't come through, she's dead. And on the way home, on the way to his house, Jesus decides to go with him. What happens? There's a woman with blood issue who comes to Jesus and touches him. Right? Everybody's crowding in. She touches the hem of his garment, and she's healed. And the gospel says that she had already determined in her mind that I'm going to come to him because I know that if I can just touch his garment, I can be healed. And that is the faith that we need to have when we come to God. If I can just get in your presence, if I can just touch the hem of the garment, then all those things, all those issues get solved. But that's faith, right? And so many she could have been like this. Well, what if he doesn't want to do it for me? Well, but understand, she had no more hope. She had spent all her money on doctors. He was the only hope. And she touches him, and he turns around, and he says, who has touched me? And the disciples are like, Jesus, are you crazy? There's thousands of people here. You can't go anywhere without thousands of people following you. You go to the desert, and 5,000 people follow you without food for 3 days. That's a pretty big move of God, just so you know. If people are willing to give up 3 days' worth of eating and follow you into the wilderness, and they were dedicated because they were going to stay there even longer, Jesus had to send them away after he fed them. But they're like, Jesus, everywhere you go, there's thousands of people who are touching you and bumping you and trying to get something from you. What do you mean, who touched you? Everybody's touching you. He said, this one is different. He says, because I felt virtue leave my body. I felt someone put a demand on the healing, and they received it. I felt it, and it caught his attention. Faith catches God's attention. And what does he do? He turns around, and the woman's there, and the woman says, I did it.